When she arrives at her mother's house, a daughter finds her crying on the sidewalk with everything scattered. But when she finds out the reason, something inside her changes forever. Ava had always been strong, but quiet. She never asked for help, never complained, never dramatized. She grew up in a home where affection was weakness and care came in the form of demands. Nobody talked about feelings there. From an early age, she learned that depending on others was dangerous. She married young, not for love, but to get out of the house. From that union came Carol, the product of a cold relationship marked by disappointments. Her husband disappeared without warning, leaving debts and silence behind. Ava didn't cry, she just kept going. She became a street vendor, raising her daughter with effort and presence. She learned to live relying only on herself. Years later, when Carol was still young, Ava remarried. The new husband was older, methodical, seemed trustworthy. He brought the promise of stability. They had George, but what seemed like a fresh start turned into a burden. The man was controlling, not affectionate, and treated Carol coldly while spoiling George. Ava tried to keep the balance but stayed silent. The marriage worsened over time. The husband, sick and bitter, died suddenly. He left a small inheritance, some debts, and a house where the wear and the difference between the children were already evident. After that, Ava became the only link between Carol and George. But the years of unequal treatment left scars. With Carol, the relationship was based on respect and trust, but distant. Neither knew how to break the emotional barrier between them. Carol became a nurse, methodical, independent, not very affectionate. She carried a silent resentment about how George was raised. He, without limits, became evasive and manipulative. He married Kathleen, a polite but cold woman. They had Christopher, who grew up surrounded by permissiveness. Kathleen didn't set boundaries, George was absent, and the boy learned that everything was owed to him. Carol and George broke off completely after an argument about selling a family plot of land. They never spoke again. Ava, tired of conflicts, avoided bringing up the subject. She lived alone in a simple house in the same neighborhood among old neighbors and memories. She was proud of her independence, even though her health was slowly failing. When Carol visited, she noticed subtle signs: unpaid bills, little food, disorganized medicines. Ava always hid it. And Carol, tired from work, thought it was just aging wear and tear. It was on an ordinary Friday that everything changed. The phone rang late in the afternoon while Carol was finishing a tough shift at the hospital. Ava's name appeared on the screen, and that alone caused a different kind of tightening in her chest. Her mother rarely called. She usually said she didn't want to bother, that she knew her daughter's busy schedule. But there, on that lit screen, was more than just a number. It was an urgent call. When Carol answered, the voice on the other end wasn't the one she knew. It was shaky, low, dragged out. "Carol, daughter, can you come here?" "Now?" Ava whispered, almost choking on the words. "Mom, what happened? Is something wrong? Are you okay?" Carol asked, already rising from her chair. "Just come, please." Ava replied and hung up before her daughter could insist on understanding. Carol didn't even change clothes. She grabbed her bag, excused herself quickly to her colleagues, and rushed out. As she walked through the familiar streets of her childhood neighborhood, her stomach churned with foreboding. Something was wrong, very wrong. Turning the corner onto her mother's street, the scene she saw froze her for a second. There, sitting on the sidewalk, curled up as if trying to disappear, was Ava. Next to her, an open cardboard box with blankets folded carelessly, a dented kettle, an old radio she'd kept forever, and a few stacked belongings. No cars, no neighbors around, no voices, just that unsettling silence, broken only by the rustling of dry leaves on the ground. Carol ran, kneeling beside her mother. "Mom, what happened? For God's sake, what is this?" she asked, voice breaking. Ava raised her eyes. They were swollen, red, but dry. She wasn't crying anymore. The crying had stopped hours ago, maybe days. Daughter, I lost everything. What do you mean? You're on the street. What's going on? Carol insisted now, with her hands on her mother's shoulders, trying to grasp the absurdity of the scene. They came today, the officers. They brought a truck, handed me papers. Said I hadn't paid, that the house was collateral on a debt. They took everything out, everything. What? But what debt? You never told me anything about this, Mum. What debt is this? Carol's voice rose between anger and desperation. Ava lowered her face. She stayed silent for far too long. Then, with trembling hands, she picked up a partially opened plastic-covered envelope from among the scattered objects. From inside, she took out folded and crumpled papers. Contracts, notices, collection letters, overdue bills. I didn't really know what it was at first. Letters kept coming, and I thought it was a mistake. Then calls started, then papers with seals. But Carol, I swear I didn't ask for anything. I didn't do this. Carol flipped through the papers with a racing heart. There were names of banks, stores, credit companies, all in her mother's name. Loans with high interest, financing of expensive items, electronics, furniture. The total was absurd. Mom, all this was done in your name. How did nobody explain this to you? How didn't you tell me anything? Because I was ashamed. At first I thought it was a mistake. Then I saw the papers were right. My name, my information. I started paying what I could, sold the old radio, the blender, then the paintings. There was a month I lived on just rice and tea. You sold your things because of this and didn't tell me? Carol breathed fast now, a mix of outrage and disbelief. I didn't want to worry you. You already work so much, and I didn't know how to tell you because I didn't understand what was happening until it was too late. But where did this come from, Mom? You didn't ask for those loans. Someone did this for you. Someone used your name. Ava looked down. Her hands clenched the fabric of her dress on her knees. It was Christopher. The name was said so quietly that Carol almost didn't hear. She blinked, unbelieving. What? It was him. He used my documents. I let him handle the paperwork sometimes, when he asked to see accounts. He's always been good with computers. Said he helped his father with registration stuff. I trusted him. Carol pushed the papers aside, tossing them onto the cardboard box. You're telling me that Christopher, your grandson, used your documents to do all this? To put you in debt to the point they kicked you out of your house? Ava just nodded, eyes fixed on the ground. And George, did he know about this? Carol's voice was firmer now, almost cutting. I don't know. He never told me anything. Maybe not. But he never asked either. Never came here after your last fight. Carol stood, took a deep breath, then reached out to her mother. Come on. We're not staying here. Ava hesitated. Daughter, I don't want to burden you. You're not a burden. You're my mother. Come with me now. With some effort, Ava stood up. They gathered the belongings they could. An old neighbor appeared at a distance, silently offered help, and accompanied them to Carol's car. That night, already in her daughter's small apartment, Carol couldn't sleep. She spread the papers out on the kitchen table, grabbed a pen and highlighter, made notes, connected the dots. Ava slept on an improvised mattress in the guest room, exhausted, defeated. Carol analyzed every date, every amount, every signature. The bills matched recent purchases, latest generation cell phones, sound equipment, expensive furniture. All done over the past few months. Christopher had used his grandmother's name to open store accounts, request cards, take personal credit. The next morning, Carol woke Ava with coffee and a notebook. Mom, I'm going to ask you some things, and I want you to answer calmly, okay? Ava nodded, still tired-eyed. When was the first time you saw one of these letters? It was almost a year ago. I thought it was a mistake. It had my name on it, but I never asked for anything. Did you show Christopher? I did. He said he'd fix it, that it was a system error, that it was common. Carol wrote everything down. And then, when did the calls start? 2 months later, they started calling. I said I didn't owe anything, but they said my full name, my address. I hung up. Then I started selling small things to pay. Did you sign anything for him? No, never. He already had my documents saved. Once he asked me to make a copy for a community project. I trusted him. Carol took a deep breath. Mom, he forged everything. He used your data to benefit himself, to buy expensive things, to show off. You know what that is, right? Ava lowered her head. It's a crime. Carol nodded. It is, and I'm going to do what needs to be done. Ava hesitated. You're going to report him. I am. He destroyed your life, Mom. You lost the house, lost everything. And if not now, he'll do it to someone else. But he's my grandson. And I'm your daughter. And you're a woman who has always given everything for others. Now it's my turn to take care of you. And that starts with justice. Ava didn't answer immediately. She just looked at the table, the papers, then at her daughter. I just wanted everything to go back to normal. Carol held her hand. It won't go back, but we can start something new, the right way. And there, on that cold and silent morning, something inside both of them changed. An irreversible turn, a truth laid bare, and a new path unfolding, hard but necessary. Carol knew what had to be done. There was no turning back. There was a line, and Christopher had crossed it. That same afternoon, she knocked on George's door. She knew he would be there, and she knew that despite everything, Kathleen would answer too. The doorbell rang twice before it opened. Carol, what are you doing here? George said, surprised, with a more suspicious than open expression. I need to talk to both of you. Now, Carol replied, looking straight at him. Kathleen appeared shortly after, adjusting a scarf around her neck. What's going on? She asked in a neutral tone. Can we talk inside? Just for a moment, Carol said. George looked at Kathleen, who hesitated but nodded. They made way, and Carol entered. They sat in the living room, all silent for a few seconds. Carol placed the folder on the table and opened it, spreading some documents. My mother was evicted on Friday, she began. Did you know? Evicted? What do you mean? George reacted, frowning. She lost the house. Debts in her name. Loans, purchases, financing, all with her data. She didn't ask for any of it. But someone used her documents, and the debt accumulated until the house was put up as collateral. I didn't know about this, Carol. I swear. I didn't know anything, George said, raising his hands. But you're going to know now. It was Christopher. Kathleen paled. What? She murmured. Christopher used my mother's documents, made copies, opened accounts, took loans, bought things. Things probably not even here anymore, probably sold or thrown away. It's all here, Carol said, pointing to the documents. Carol, he's young. He makes mistakes. Maybe he didn't understand the consequences, Kathleen said defensively. Young enough to know how to forge documents, enter credit systems, make installment purchases, open accounts in someone else's name. He knew exactly what he was doing. And you knew he had no income for any of this. He wouldn't have managed without the slightest complicity. I didn't know, George repeated. I never saw any of this, had no idea. You had no idea because you never wanted to look, never wanted to know. My problem isn't just what Christopher did, George. It's what both of you allowed him to do. My mother almost collapsed on the sidewalk. Her house was emptied by court officers. Do you think this is what? A silly mistake. Calm down, Carol, Kathleen tried. No, I'm calm. Calm enough to know I'm taking this all the way. There will be a lawsuit, a complaint, and I'll name you too, for omission, for complicity, for silence. You're going to sue us? George's voice was tense. Yes, I am, and you can hate me for it, but you'll never ignore what you did to her again. Kathleen sighed. Carol, please, you're taking this too far. The boy made a mistake, but he was under pressure. Bad influences. Don't give me the youth excuse. This was fraud. This was theft. And now it's justice. I didn't come here for help. I came to warn you. Carol grabbed the folder, calmly gathered the documents and stood up. You had the chance to do the right thing before. Now it's too late. And don't think this will be forgotten. My mother deserves more than that. Much more. She left the house without looking back. She felt the weight of the decision, but not regret. On Monday morning, the process began. She sought a lawyer recommended by a hospital colleague, organized everything precisely. The professional and experienced man listened carefully to every detail. You have solid evidence. This will be slow, but it will happen. We'll file for ideological falsification, material and moral damages, and request compensation. The name of the direct responsible will be included, of course, but will also involve the father for omission. That's more than fair. I want to protect my mother. I want her never to go through this again, Carol said. We'll make sure of that. But prepare yourself, it will take time, and they'll try to discredit, claim she allowed it, that there was consent. She barely knew what was happening. Yes, but these kinds of people cling to any loophole. And so began the legal journey, months of hearings scheduled and postponed, requests for additional documents, signature expert reports, analysis of security cameras in stores where Christopher used documents. Carol followed everything closely. At each stage, she patiently informed her mother. Mom, they accepted the case. The expert review will start. They will compare your signature to the contracts. Is that good? Ava asked, uncertain. It's great. It will prove you didn't sign anything. The trial dragged on for almost a year. At one hearing, Christopher was called to testify. He entered the room with his head down, still carrying the same arrogant air as always. He tried to argue that he didn't know it was a crime. She let me see everything. She trusted me. I just thought I could help, organize. I didn't think it was that serious, he said. The judge was unimpressed. The expert report confirmed the signatures didn't match. The footage showed Christopher presenting documents in his name, and the bank statements, with absurd amounts and purchases incompatible with any declared income, closed the case. George was called. He said he was unaware of his son's actions, tried to justify by saying he was focused on work, trusted Christopher. Carol's lawyer responded firmly, "You not only neglected, but benefited from the silence. You never questioned the origin of the purchases, never cared about the documents used. That is complicity." Kathleen, when summoned, only cried. Repeated vague phrases about negative influences and lack of guidance, but nothing convinced. In the end, the sentence was clear. Christopher, already legally responsible for his actions, must pay full compensation, adjusted, plus perform community service for a year. And due to the severity of the acts, the judge ordered his name be registered as a fraud offender. George lost the consulting contract he had with a court partner company, and the family's reputation collapsed. The news spread through the neighborhood. Neighbors who had known Ava for decades began to comment, "Poor thing, betrayed by her own grandson. She's always been so upright. You don't do that even to strangers, let alone your grandmother." Some left food at Carol's door, others offered rides. Ava refused almost everything, still overwhelmed by shame. But there was a kind of gesture she accepted. Flowers left on the porch, small handwritten notes with phrases like, "We're with you," or "Stay strong, Ava." That moved her. "Carol, did you see this?" she said, showing a bouquet of daisies. "I did, Mom. People remember who you are." Slowly, shame gave way to dignity. Carol renovated a small annex in her backyard. painted the walls white, put up new curtains, chose simple but cozy furniture, planted a small herb garden at the entrance. "This is for you, Mom. A space just for you, safe, at peace." Ava was touched. "I never thought I'd have this again." "Now you do, and you won't lose it again." Ava started spending her afternoons sewing, writing in old notebooks, and tending the plants. The smile returned little by little. It wasn't wide, but it was genuine. She found calm again. Carol cut back on shifts. She wanted more time, more presence. She never spoke ill of her brother in public, nor of her nephew. But she never looked for them again either. She knew some ties, once broken, shouldn't be mended. George and Kathleen sold the house. They used the money to pay part of the compensation. They moved to another city, left no contact, disappeared from their old social circle. Christopher tried to start over, tried to be a salesman, freelancer, consultant. But wherever he went, doors closed. The memory of the betrayal preceded him. Trust is fragile, and people don't forget. Ava aged with dignity. When she passed away, her story was known. She was mourned with respect. There were flowers, silence, affection. Carol went on with her life, alone but never lonely. She had friends, purpose, a clean name. She never heard from George again, and she didn't need to. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, give it a like, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. See you in the next story.